Welcome to the Korean Atlas and History. Every week, we will take you on a journey throughout the Korean landscape, or back in time through Korea's history. Our topics include mountains, rivers, provinces, cities, holidays, people, and more. Today, on the Korean Atlas and History, Korean rivers. The Han River. The Han River is the fourth longest river on the Korean peninsula after the Yalu, Tumen, and Nakdong rivers. The Han River has the strongest flow rate of all the rivers on the Korean peninsula. Thus, it is a very important river to Koreans. The total length of the river is 494 kilometers, or 307 miles. The Han River is formed by the confluence of two smaller rivers, called the North Han River and the South Han River. The Han River then flows through the city of Seoul before merging with the Imjin River and then flowing to the Yellow Sea. The name of the Han River can even vary depending on local areas. The Han River is the focal point for many cities in Korea, including Incheon Metropolitan City, Suwon, Hwaseong, Dongbu, Pyeongtaek, Ansang, and many others. It serves as a water source to over 12 million Koreans. Many areas that are far from the typical Seoul commuting area, yet are in the Han River system, have become suburbs for Seoul commuters. Thus, the geographical range of the Han River system and the geographical range of the Seoul commuter pass are highly related. The Han River has various tributaries, which include the Anyang, Jongrang, and Tancheon streams. Inside the city of Seoul is the Han River Citizens Park, a famous park built on both sides of the river. As the Han River passes through Seoul, it is constantly maintained at a certain point above sea level by the Singok submerged weir in Gimpo City. In addition to controlling the water level, construction of the weir helped to excavate enough space under the surface of the water so that cruise ships may be launched via the Han River. The name Han means big, precise, upright, or same. Thus, the name Han River can most easily be translated to Big River. During the Three Kingdoms period in Korea, living near the river determined your social rank. This is because the advantages of the Han were great and included, but were not limited to, agricultural productivity, transportation, and maritime trade routes with China. At this time, the Han River was the only place where traders on the Daedong River, Gum River, Yongsan River, and Nakdong River could connect. Until the Joseon dynasty, the Han River was the most important passage to connect the nearby provinces of Gyeonggi, Chungcheong, and Jeolla. The name of the rapid economic growth of Korea since 1953 is called the Miracle on the Han River. Even today, on New Year's Day, people line up around the Han River and pray. Compared to other rivers around the world, the Han River and the riverbed are quite wide, yet compared to its width, the watershed is enormous. The tide and ebb of the river is also quite large, and before the creation of the Singok submerged weir, the tide and ebb was clearly visible. In the late 1980s, the Han River contained enormous amounts of E. coli. Thus, unfiltered, it was not suitable for drinking. This is because the river acts as a sewer to the cities of Uijeongbu, Seongnam, Hannam, Goyang, Gwangju, Yeoju, Icheon, Chuncheon, Wonju, and Jaecheon. Hence, a massive sewer treatment plant has been erected in Seoul that boasts a 100% connection rate to sewers in the city and a total capacity of 4.98 million meters cubed per day. Thus, the nearby rivers and streams are now swimmable, generally considered clean, but drinking from the Han is still discouraged. Because of the width and watershed of the Han, it is difficult to build full-scale arch bridges across it. Special type bridges are sometimes built, as in the case of the bridge built in honor of the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Plans are currently underway for the World Cup Bridge, which will be a special cable-stayed bridge. The development of the area around the Han has led to certain developments in the city of Seoul as well. In the late 1960s and early 70s, the development of the area south of the river, known as Gangnam, was poor until the completion of the Hanam Bridge and Gyeongbu Expressway. This means that instead of expanding naturally along the river, the city of Seoul intentionally and rapidly developed Gangnam. Other areas were also included in this intentional development. In short, the currently wealthy areas of Gangnam, Seocho, Songpa-gu, Gumcheon, and Gwanak-gu had no particular power or wealth until the government's policies to develop them came to fruition. This development policy was done for three major reasons. The first reason was to push the development of the city in a southward direction, and in that way move the citizens further from the threat of North Korea. The second major reason for this development policy was to stop the city from expanding north into the mountains. Further development northward would cause the city to have an unnatural urban structure, and movement throughout the structure would prove difficult. As it is now, though, the structure allows an easy flow of goods, transportation, and commerce. Finally, the expansion of the city southward would move development toward Gyeongjin Railway Line, thus strengthening the link between Incheon and Seoul. At the time of development, as many as 20 bridges were required to be built over the Han in the Seoul area. Currently, 31 bridges cross the Han in Seoul. In the 1980s, the Han River was extremely polluted. Because of this pollution and the need to expand the amusement facilities and urban infrastructure in this area, the Han River Development Plan was born. The plan involved the dredging of the Han River, the maintenance of sewer pipes, and the construction of high-speed roads. During this development plan, the river was drilled down to a depth of 2.5 meters, deep enough to allow cruise ships to move safely through it. The major result of this was that the area around the Han River that was largely affected by the ebb and tide of the Han now has very little ebb or tide. Additionally, parks were built in the vicinity of the Han, including Hangang Park, or the Han River Park. There is, however, a dark side to the Han. Each year, hundreds of bodies are found. In fact, some Koreans joke that there's a life reset button at the bottom of the Han. Many of the bodies that are found each year are too corrupt to identify, but the police rule most of them as being not suicide. Because of this, there is a force of 119 workers in Korea dedicated to the identification of the remains of said victims. Housing around the Han River boasts high prices. Real estate and housing, especially in Gangnam, the area south of the river, is seen as the most expensive housing in Korea. One of the major draws seems to be the view at night, especially because of the shining bridges. Historically, the Han has been central to Korea since ancient times. The Baekje Kingdom was the first to dominate the Han, and it built Namhan Fortress just south of Seoul as an early capital. Soon after, the Han became a point of contention between the Baekje Empire and the Kingdom of Goguryeo. Allying with the Kingdom of Shilla, the Baekje held power over the Han from Goguryeo. But in 553, Shilla broke its alliance with Baekje and seized the entire river for itself. By 668 AD, Shilla, with help from the Tang dynasty, wrested control of the river from Baekje and unified not only the river, but most of the peninsula. During the Shilla dynasty and the two dynasties that followed, the Han River was known as the Korean River. In 1950, the Han was, and continues to be, the center of the controversy of the destruction of the Hangang Bridge. As North Korea began their invasion on June 25, 1950, Lee Sigmund, the president of South Korea at that time, evacuated with other government officials. The demolition of the Hangang Bridge was ordered in a plan to prevent the North from following the retreat southward. However, the South Korean army didn't announce the demolition of the bridge to Seoul citizens. On June 28th at 2:30 a.m., the Hangang Bridge was destroyed. At that time, an estimated 4,000 refugees were on the bridge, and between 500 and 1,000 refugees died. At 11 a.m., the North Korean army reached the bridge. On September 21st, 1950, Colonel Chae Chang-shik was found responsible for the detonation, and he was executed. In 1964, Chae's wife appealed his case, and he was exonerated as he was just following orders. In 2000, the Han made news again when the U.S. military admitted to dumping 20 gallons of highly toxic chemical formaldehyde into the river. In 2011, a canal was completed that linked the Han River near Gimpo in Seoul to Incheon. The canal, called the Ara Canal, is 18 kilometers long. Currently, the Han River is lined with walkways, bicycle paths, and various public spaces. In 2011, a survey conducted by the Seoul Development Institute found that 51.3% of residents voted the Han River the second most scenic location in Seoul, second only to Mount Namsan. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Korean Atlas in History. Most of today's information was taken from the Namu Wiki and Wikipedia.com. We hope you have enjoyed the Korean Atlas and History. If you want to learn more or study the Korean names of these places, check out our Memrise tool. That's MEMRISE.com and search for Korean Atlas and History. If you wish to download all the episodes of this podcast, want more information, or want transcripts of this podcast, visit us at www.koreanatlasandhistory.com. If you wish to send us an email, you can email us at koreanatlasandhistory@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.